The shoot-to-kill method adopted by police has received mixed reaction from the public. On Tuesday night, five suspects who were wanted for a string of murder and business robbery cases in KwaZulu-Natal were shot and fatally wounded in a shootout with police. Just recently, in a briefing, KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi confirmed that police shot and killed at least 40 suspects in shootouts since the beginning of April 2024 alone. Eastern Cape Police were also in a shootout earlier this week, killing 5 suspected cash-in-transit robbers. So what can we make of this new approach by the police? Constitutional law expert from UCT, Professor Pierre is now joining us for this conversation. Professor a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. So it's not the first time that we hear this phrase, shoot to kill. I remember when Nhlanhla was police commissioner, it was a major issue. And back then also there were mixed reaction to it. Some people saying that, but you need to deal with violent criminals in sometimes a violent method. But then also the other accusation is that the police then becoming trigger happy. And how do you determine how the police used the force that they were using at the moment that the suspects were killed, whether it was a police that were trigger happy or police who felt that their lives were in danger?
Yes, so it is difficult because actually, although IPID is obviously going to investigate or busy investigating many of these cases, we don't actually have a lot of information about any of these shootouts, killings. The police say that the people who were killed were dangerous criminals, but this may be true, it might not be true. They say they were shot at, so they had to respond and defend themselves. This may, in most cases, be true. It might not be true. What is clear is that police's job is not to take the law into their own hands and to decide who is guilty or not, and then to kill them if there's an opportunity to do so. That would be murder. It is very dangerous because today the police actually identify a real dangerous criminal. Tomorrow they identify you or me and they come and shoot us. So it is, we don't, so while some of these shootouts might actually really be justified, the police's job is to try and arrest people and to do so without killing them or shooting them, and then to bring them to the court where they can actually be tried and convicted so that we know that the people who are being punished are actually the ones who are guilty of a crime.
And that's the thing, because once when you speak to the police, they would say to you that these are wanted criminals. They have been wanted for a number of violent crimes and business robberies as an example. And therefore, when they open fire, the moment that these individuals open fire, we also then return fire because our lives as police officers are in danger. But then we also live in a criminal justice system that says you are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, so it's important to understand that in terms of our law, the police have every right to defend themselves, to act in self-defense, and even to kill suspects or anybody else in self-defense if there's a real attack on them, or to use reasonable force to effect an arrest. So they have those powers. And so the problem is that there are no checks and balances in the system as far as the police is concerned. We as the public have to believe what they're doing, they are doing well, that they are not being untruthful or making mistakes. And that's not easy to do given the history of the police. From apartheid, after the end of formal apartheid at least, the police has been in trouble for wrongful arrest. They paid out 2 billion rand in the past 4 years to people who they wrongfully arrested. They've had to pay out hundreds of millions of rands for people that they had wrongfully assaulted, shot, or to the families of people they have killed. So this doesn't happen in a contextless place. So we want the police to take the fight to the criminal, so to speak. But we also don't want a society where the police is law unto themselves, and we ourselves fear that they might come for us and kill us for basically no reason.
Yeah, and some members of the public, of course, has welcomed this approach that has been taken specifically by the Provincial Police Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal. In a statement that was issued earlier last month, the police commissioner is quoted as saying that the authority of the state must be stemmed to ensure that the lives of police officers are preserved and also to ensure that residents of KwaZulu-Natal are protected from hardened criminals who do not hesitate to spill the blood.
Yes, that statement is true to the extent that, and correct to the extent that police officers have a right to defend themselves, that, and so forth. The authority of the state, the police is not the shooting individuals, instead of arresting them and bringing them to trial, I would argue, does not enforce the authority of a democratic state, one that is open and democratic. It is a more authoritarian approach to power. It's about force and not about legitimacy. So I personally wouldn't really agree with that part of the statement.
No. And here's the other thing to this, Prof, is that when it comes to policing, it still remains a national competency. But you can see that there is a difference in strategy and approaches from the different provinces. Yesterday, when we were speaking to the KwaZulu-Natal spokesperson, police spokesperson, in defending the action of the police, he said, well, look at the Eastern Cape. Just this week as well, there was a shootout with the police. Between police and suspects, and the suspects were shot and killed. So nothing different to what is happening in KwaZulu-Natal. But it is different in that we don't hear as of many cases in the Eastern Cape as compared to KwaZulu-Natal as an example. So meaning that they got this authority from the Provincial Police Commissioner to say, go ahead and shoot to kill.
Yeah, so it's very difficult actually to get to the bottom of this. There might be other reasons why this is happening in KZN more frequently, the nature of the criminal gangs or whatever. It might probably also because of the attitude of the police commissioner. In terms of the policing experts endorse the idea that there should be different types of policing in different contexts, even within a province. That it requires, in some cases, might require more forceful behavior than in others. So it is not per se a problem, but the extent of the killing and the fact that in so many cases all the suspects are just conveniently, quote unquote, killed, so there are no witnesses apart from the police about what happened. It does. Should raise concerns, and I really hope that I could very forcefully investigate these things to check and to assure us, if nothing bad happened, that the police actually were acting within the law and were not actually breaking the law and killing people unlawfully.
And the difficulty then for IPID to investigate some of these cases, one of the experts that Koli was speaking to yesterday was saying that in some cases you could find that the police officers that are being accused of using brutality, being very brutal in their use of force as well, is that they would corroborate, to collude, and come to IPID with the statements that are exactly the same, so as to ensure that they are not held accountable or being accused of being trigger-happy and of murder.
Well, this happens in police services across the world, especially if it's a tight-knit unit. You know, the more elite kind of units, they are very good at this kind of thing. Of course, they are corroborating each other's statements, sometimes because they just stuffed up, they made a mistake, and in extreme cases because they went out there to teach the criminals so-called a lesson and to kill them. And so, yes, it is very difficult, and especially where there's no other witnesses, which is why every time the police say they had killed all the suspects, I worry about that, about what that might mean. I don't know, but I do worry.
Yeah. Finally, Prof, in terms of what the provincial commissioner was arguing here, stamping the authority of the state, can it be said that the authority of the state could also be stamped by ensuring that when you do get a situation like what we've had now in the last incident, we heard that the suspects were shot and killed, but only 2 firearms were found on the scene, which raises a lot of questions, of course, around whether the other suspect was also armed, and if they were armed, where are those firearms? How do we stem the authority of the state when there's also this level of suspicion against police officers?
So there's a profound problem with the police in terms of its legitimacy. It was born in sin in a way because I'm old enough to remember the horrors of the apartheid police service, and it transformed, yes, but some of the habits and institutional culture is still there. Police is not very well trained. They often in small interpersonal situations, they don't necessarily behave in a very professional way. And so in the ordinary life, people are not very trustful of the police. They are seeming more trustful because people are desperate because of the crime. In cases like this where allegedly criminals were shot and killed. But what is really necessary is for the police to do the work to become really a trusted and credible police force, not only when they shoot and kill people they call violent criminals, but in everyday situations that affects the lives of every South African.
Does shoot to kill really deter crime?
Of course, this is maybe an ideological question, or the answer will depend on your ideology. There's a lot of research to show that the more the police start killing, what will happen is, if for organized crime at least, is that those organized criminals are going to upskill and up-arm themselves, and it will become more violent, not less violent. This is what happened, for example, in Rio, where the police very aggressively went after the gang bosses, and it caused a kind of mini civil war in Rio, and the crime didn't stop, obviously.
Well, let's see what it does for KZN. That is Professor Pierre there speaking about this so-called shoot-to-kill approach that has been taken by the police in KwaZulu-Natal. Still